Robin has asked me to do a summation. He always asks me to do this. I'm going to just try to breeze through this rather quickly. On the top panel, we spoke about power and how it is changing its nexus. The web and social media means that charismatic leaders are likely still important to build governments, but in the age of Twitter and Facebook, the Che Guevara of the new revolution is the network. That was what Alec Ross's message was this morning of the US State Department. He admitted that the new networked world is shaking governments to their very core, but they must embrace it, he says, or risk, quote, the derision of the governed. My point there is that that may be a bit of an understatement given what's going on in the Arab world. Then we heard from Rikin Patel of Avaz, and he spoke about using the web to create new kinds of social movements and new sources of power. And Jeremy Hymans of Purpose chimed in and said this could help put the spin doctors like Alistair Campbell out of business. I'm not sure he's right, but we can hope. We also heard this morning about the importance of data, and we got onto it again this afternoon. And not just data, but data that is contextualized and put in a usable and in a reusable forms. Data is Google's very profitable business, but it was good to hear that the World Bank is getting into the data dissemination business as well as the data collection business, and some of the good works that we heard from Aleem there. We also heard about business models to make social technology sustainable. David Edelstein of Grameen Technology said building in self-funding at the beginning is key because philanthropy eventually, he says, will run out. And Michael Birch of Jolitics told us that he thinks that there's still room for new social networks beyond Facebook and Twitter. He would say that, wouldn't he? He's just launching his site. But I think he's probably correct. Take heed, all entrepreneurs. There's probably always space for innovation. The lightning presentations showcased all kinds of things. I'm not going to go through all of them, but certainly one of the ones that I heard I think it was in this room, was about the $300 house. The story there illustrates how even an effectively leaderless group has attracted a sponsor and created a competition that even now has winners, and that with the intention of making the affordable $300 house a reality in several markets. And this was all done, according to Christian Sarkan of the $300 house, with the web and a few good connections. In the Global Citizenship session, we heard about the polarization of views being a key hurdle to sites purporting to stimulate debate, like Jolitics. Yet perhaps at the plus side, the top-down message of hierarchical governments is no longer possible. Alec Ross told us succinctly, the 21st century is a lousy time to be a control freak. And Vanessa Newman of the Foreign Policy Institute said there is now a moral obligation on people to retweet messages from people living under repressive governments. She particularly talked about people who are in the diaspora of places like Venezuela, and I would suggest Syria and other repressive regimes like that. We heard quite a few terms today. I'm not going to go through all of them, but one that I wanted to underline was slacktivism. That was given to us by Boris Johnson's digital director. He said, I click and I campaign and I retweet, but what is the real ownership and involvement there? I think we're still at the beginning of all this, that's my view, but sites like Avaz and getup.org are a really good start. We came back to data, as you all heard just now, at the end of the day in a big way. The open data movement is key, but the idea of linked data is even more key. Subia Hamid of Data Giving pointed to the importance of ground-up collection of data as that is being done by Datadyne and Twawiza. We also got quite deep into the data discussion. The goal may be the semantic web, but as Matt Bidoff from Nokia told us, we have to wait for the cows to make the paths before we pave them. That's a takeaway. And I'll leave you with what the UK's digital champion, Martha Lane Fox, said. 9 million people in the UK have never been on the internet. That's stunning. There needs to be a fearlessness, she said, about changing that, both from corporations and from government. And maybe, she said, Estonia has the answer. Design brilliant web-based government services and connectivity will come. Well, I would say to Martha Lane Fox, that's all very well and good, but somebody has to pay for the broadband networks, but that's another story. So that was my summation. I'd like to now thank all of our sponsors, Taylor Wessing, the Vodafone Foundation, the UN Foundation, the Omidar Network, Thank you very much for supporting Activate. Without you guys, we wouldn't have made this day possible. I also want to thank again our two sponsors for Activate, Bluvia and Nokia. And last but not least, in any case, a big thanks to the Activate curator, Robin Huff, who's just over there, and his team. So let's have a big round of applause for all the sponsors. I want to thank all of our speakers for their contributions. I know it's a lot of work, and we really appreciate your coming. A lot of you came a long way, so we're glad that you came. Thank you for your contributions. And also to all of you for coming and for your contributions from the floor. I think we all learned a lot. I hope you exchanged a lot of business cards. I'm Kate Bulkley. I'm wishing you a very good afternoon. Thank you.